Welcome to The Rainbow Connection. This podcast was designed for mothers who are finding their way through life after loss. Whether you're grieving, trying to conceive again, newly pregnant, or holding hope in your heart for what's to come, this space is for you. Each week you'll hear real and tender stories of love, heartbreak, healing, and the babies who continue to shape us. I'm your host, Kristen Mundy, a mother, doula, and a woman who's walked this path too. May these conversations remind you that you are not alone, that your baby is never forgotten, and that hope and grief can live here together. Trying to conceive after loss is a journey unlike any other, one that deserves a different kind of support. That's exactly why I created Mother Like No Other, a gentle, private community for women navigating trying to conceive after loss. Inside, you'll find real-time support through our Voxer group chat, monthly workshops hosted on Zoom, guest speakers, and guidance from me, an experienced doula who's walked this path too. If you're looking for a space where your angel baby is honored, your fears are held, and your hope is supported, this is it. You can join us for just $22 a month, a low commitment, low pressure way to receive real support on one of the hardest journeys there is. You're free to cancel anytime, but the connection and comfort you're going to find inside, well, that might just be exactly what your heart's been needing. So if you are trying to conceive after loss or thinking about trying to conceive after loss and are wanting to learn more, please head to @the.doula.life on Instagram or www.thedoulalife.ca/motherlikennoother. We aren't meant to journey this path alone, and inside Mother Like No Other, you won't have to. Today's guest is Jasmine, a mother to two beautiful children, her daughter Braelynn, who was sadly stillborn at 40 weeks, and her son Archer, her rainbow baby born just last year. In this episode, Jasmine shares the devastating story of losing her firstborn due to a preventable nuchal cord accident and the dismissal, neglect, and silence that led to the unimaginable. Jasmine speaks with so much honesty about what it's like to come home without her baby, how she found support in her grief, and the long, slow journey of learning to trust again in her pregnancy after loss. This is also the story of sweet baby Archer, the little boy who came after, and the love and care and community that helped Jasmine find her voice and her strength and her footing again after loss. Okay, now let's hear from Jasmine. Hi, Jasmine. Welcome to the Rainbow Connection. Thank you so much for agreeing to be on the podcast today and sharing your story.
Hi, Kristen. I'm really happy to be here and be able to share the story that we went through and touch other moms who are going through something similar.
I love that so much. I'm so thankful that you're here, and I'm really looking forward to our conversation. Jasmine actually has two stories to share with us today. One of her angel baby and the other one of her rainbow baby. But before we do dive in, Jasmine, I would love to hear a little bit more about yourself. I'm sure your listeners would love to know a little bit about you and your family.
So I'm a mom of two, plus our little furry friend. I've had a dog since he's 3 months, and now he's 12 years, so he's probably my first baby. And then I have my angel baby, Ray, and I'm 6 months postpartum from having our rainbow baby, Archer.
6 months postpartum, and she's here sharing her story. That in itself is a feat. Jasmine, why don't you tell us a little bit about your baby girl, Braelynn, and how that pregnancy and that birth went for you?
The pregnancy was pretty normal. Like, we made it all the way to 40 weeks, and they had actually talked about setting up like us going in to be induced if we didn't have her in the next week or so, just because it was my first time pregnancy. She was our first. It was kind of one of those things that they're like, oh, we could do this. And I'm like, I just want her out. Like, let's do this. So we had scheduled it for the Friday that we actually lost her, the Saturday. So I went into labor on a Wednesday, but it was early labor, so very contractions far apart, no worries. Thursday night, went to bed still having on and off contractions, and then woke up around like 2 a.m. and absolute horrible contractions 5 minutes apart. So the hospital's like, come in, we'll do some checks. So we went up to the floor. They did some checks. They're like, oh, you're not far enough along for us to keep you, do 2 hours of walking, come back. During that 2 hours of walking, so it was like closer to shift change in our area. So by the time I went back up, it was probably around 7:30ish. And so we had we walked around and she stopped moving for 2 hours. Like I didn't feel any kicks, nothing. And I started to get really worried about it because they're like count your kicks and all that fun stuff. And I was like, okay, this isn't normal. So water breaking does not always feel like this giant gush. I'm going to put that out there because not a lot of people know that. And some people at hospitals will tell you, no, no, you'll know when your water breaks. Truth is, you might not.
It's
And
not
with,
like the movies, right?
yeah, and so many people say it is. And you're like, I had a slow leak with her. And I noticed that it had changed colors. And that's how I knew I had a slow leak. And I'm like, this isn't normal. And my husband was like, I don't know what to do. So when we went back up, we had a new nurse who never introduced herself. I don't even know her name. She came in, she was asking us questions, she did the cervical check, all that fun stuff. We still weren't dilating. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. Like, it is what it is. But can you check her? Because she hasn't moved in 2 hours.
Mm.
And instead of doing like a non stress test or something else, she literally put the Doppler to her and said, oh, she has a heartbeat. And I was like, okay, but like, this is weird. No, they run out of room.
Mm.
And I'm like, no, they don't technically run out of room. Like, this isn't normal. I want to see my OB. And she's like, no, no, like, everything's fine. Then she looks at me and goes, has your water broken? I'm like, I think it might have, but like, I'm not getting that gushing feeling. And she's like, no, you'll know. And I'm like, are you going to listen to me or just
Really dismissive, it sounded like.
yeah, and my husband was getting frustrated, and then we started kind of arguing with her. So she, to placate me, she looked at me and she's like, "I'm gonna go talk to the OB," which I was like, "Yes," because it was my OB. So I'm like, I know for a fact she'll come check on me. Not even like 2 minutes later, she comes back in the room. Oh, OB agreed with me. You're just a first time mom. You're worried about nothing. You need to go. And at that point, I'm like, hey, she didn't. I felt like she didn't go see the OB, and I found out 6 weeks later at our 6 week appointment after we had lost that no nurse had ever approached her about me. So that was frustrating. But then we left, and I think it was probably 12 hours later, I felt some horrible pain in my stomach. And I'm like, we need to go. We went back in, and she was dead. There was nothing they could do at that point. And so I don't know if you know what a nuchal cord is.
Mhm.
So we delivered her. And when she came out, they had to stop me from pushing because the cord was wrapped so tightly around her neck. She had ligature marks from it. And they had to cut it before it ripped out the placenta. So I had to stop pushing. They had to do that. And the OB, he was fantastic. Like, love that OB. My friend ended up having him for her rainbow baby this year. And he was amazing both times. But he looked at me and he's like, if I can tell you with certainty what happened, I'm going to tell you for like today. And he looked at me and he's like, this is what did it. He's like, she lost oxygen because this tightened as she was pushing on the pelvic floor. So he's like, you never dilated because there wasn't enough force to push open the pelvic floor because every time she would drop, it would strangle her. And he's like, had they done an NST, had they done a swab, they would have seen that your water broke and they would have seen that she had distress. They would have known that there was something wrong. And he's like, there was a lot of dismissive parts in this. And then 6 weeks later, when we went to our OB appointment, she was like, yeah, they never came to talk to me. And like my OB was fantastic. She called us the day that we lost her. She called me and was like, is there anything I can do? Anything that you need to know? Like, I'm here. She's like, if you need to see someone else, that's okay. I totally understand it. And when she found out what happened, she was very angry about it as well. She was very frustrated with it. Um, Especially that little part where she's like, it could have made all the difference if I had come in and talked to you and asked what was going on.
Mhm.
But she's like, she had no idea that I was even on the floor.
Now, did you ever do any follow-up with that nurse? Did you report her? Did the OB report
So
her?
we reported her to our hospital's
Like
like invest
internal?
yeah, and I just didn't want to know more about it. I was like, I just want to report what we went through, but I need to heal, and I can't heal if I'm constantly hearing about this. And like ROB was told us that we should press charges. We should go after them. And it was just something that we were like, no, A, you have to prove that there was negligence, which is hard. And B, how do you heal?
And it's already you're already going through such an like your threshold is so low already just from being in grief and have just lost your baby. There really isn't a lot of space to give, and like going to court and holding people accountable takes a lot of energy out of you. It's revisiting this horrible thing, and um,
And our area only has one hospital.
mm,
So it's like trying to even find someone who would represent you against the only hospital in that area. And so it's just like one thing after another. And my husband and I had sat down. It happened like my cousin had lost a baby 8 months prior in January, then we lost in August. So I had reached out to her, and then we had gotten pamphlets with some information on where we could talk to, even here in our community. So I had set up an appointment with a grief counselor here in our community for, I think it was like the day after, like 2 days after, because I'm like, we just need to talk. Like, we can't sit on this.
mhm,
We can't just let our emotions keep boiling. So we had weekly visits with her that then turned to 2 weeks, and then monthly visits until they slowly weaned down where when we were comfortable, and now we just go when we need it.
mhm. And that's amazing that that resource was available to you. Now, would you be comfortable sharing a little bit about how those, first days? I know you said that you went out and got a grief counselor, and like it's so sad that your cousin had to go through something similar. Like it's just absolutely devastating, and that she was able to maybe provide some support for you. But what did those like immediate after Braelynn was born, what did those immediate hours look like, days look like for you?
I feel like it didn't fully sink in right away
Mhm.
because you're postpartum,
Mhm.
you're going home without a baby. Like they gave us a box, and it like I know it's supposed to not make you feel better, but it's like, oh, you're coming home with something. But I feel like coming home with a box was even worse because it's just like, what the heck? Our friends, because we had like the car seat set up, and our whole house was just baby stuff set up for her. And so our friends, my best friend, she's like, I got you, girl. And they're the godparents. So they went into our house and completely put everything in her room, closed the door, and said, when you guys are ready, open it.
Mhm.
I think it took us like 3 or 4 days to open the door. And it was hard. Like, you're supposed to have this little baby. You never heard her cry. It's like, it takes a moment. It took plenty of moments of just like checking in with ourselves throughout the day and knowing that it was okay to cry and it was okay to have those moments and to feel them. I think that was the biggest thing we took from it is feel the moments. Whether it's at a grocery store and you need to walk out or like just feel them because if you bottle them in, it's going to make it worse.
Mhm. And it's almost impossible not to feel it. I feel like there's nothing comparable to losing your baby, right? But losing your baby brings you to like a new level of feeling, and especially being that baby's mother. Only you can grieve that baby the way that a mother would grieve that baby, and it's pretty impossible to avoid.
And I feel like sometimes there's like the oversteps with family where it's like they're trying to do things for you, but instead of asking you, like, hey, is this okay? They're just like doing it because they want to help. And I found like that was hard. So setting like really good boundaries throughout the time really helped us heal because everyone's trying to heal. And I understood that. But it was like, okay, your healing is kind of impeding our healing and we need to step back. And
Who did you have anyone that showed up for you like really well after your loss? I know that, yeah, I know that after, you lose your baby, it makes things really clear of who is kind of capable and who's not, and who kind of gets it a little bit more. So I'd really like to hear about, how people showed up for you after it.
many, like, I have to say, we have great family, we have great friends, and 10 out of 10, like I did have to get rid of people from my life where it was just like, you don't get to hold the space in my life if that's how you're going to see this. But for the ones that showed up, like my cousin was fantastic. She messaged me, was like, do you want to go to group with me? Let's do this. Let's go for coffee. Let's just sit in it. And she's like, and if you want to talk, let's talk. If not, well, we don't need to talk. And then I had my two best friends really showed up. Like the one, they made us food, but also just like going out to things for birthdays and stuff like that. Like I had a really major meltdown at her husband's birthday because it was like, oh, she should be here. And she didn't question it. She just sat right beside me, put her arm around me, and just let me have my moment. And when it was done, we acted like nothing had kind of changed. And we just went back to the here and now. And she's like, if you want to talk, cool. If not, let's just be in the here and now. And that I really appreciated because it left the door open for conversation, but also if I wasn't comfortable, that's okay. And she wouldn't push that.
She left you in charge, kind of.
Yeah. And it was like that control that we didn't have when we lost B, we kind of gained through our friends and family with the like letting us dictate how the conversation went and when we wanted to open up the conversation. My husband and I use a lot of dark jokes. That's kind of how we cope with things. So there's a lot of that going on at him at work. Sometimes he would crack a few dark jokes and people would look at him and they'd kind of be like, okay, are we okay? But when we were home, like that was how we kind of learned to cope with it. And even now, some days we will joke about it, but we have her ashes in two different locations because we wanted her home with us, but we wanted a spot where our families could go visit her where they didn't have to come into our sanctuary, right? So we have like a tombstone for her and they replicated her footprint and her handprint on it. And it's like a little teardrop almost. And it says on it, our little ray of sunshine, because that was the nickname that she got from her aunts. So it's like really nicely set up and our friends go there sometimes, our families go there often. They decorate it, we decorate it, they'll add stuff to it. Like it's just like a really nice way to still keep her relevant sometimes because as time moves forward, people sometimes forget.
Mm-hmm.
And there's still those moments where my family will catch themselves and be like, oh, my sister-in-law, for example, she caught herself after it, but her friend's pregnant and she's like, well, I really want a girl because I want to do over.
Right.
I really want her to have a girl because I want to do over at being an aunt to a girl. And then she's like, oh my God, like I didn't mean it that way. But they're really fantastic in that sense of like, sometimes you don't notice it. And when they do notice it, they'll kind of backtrack and be like, I'm so sorry. And we know they don't mean it in the way it's said. It's just, we're all coping.
I think like most of the time people do have good intentions. There's just like a little bit of illiteracy sometimes, and this is new for everybody, right? It's new. Losing a baby is new for you, and it's obviously 1,000 times worse for you. But the people in our lives are affected as well, and I like to think for the most part, they try their best. And it kind of sucks that sometimes we have to be the ones that teach them how to do this because it's just an added, responsibility or, energy output for us as the grievers. But it does come a long way because people do, I feel like you said, how you had some really strong boundaries. People, once we do it for a continued amount of time, people get it better. They eventually get it a little bit better.
We still have boundaries up. Like in our day-to-day lives, we still have boundaries with it because it's like, so our counselor had this thing called an asshole jar. And so anything that you'd get comment-wise that was not okay and should never have been said and you would never say to someone with a living baby was something that we would then write down and throw it in there. And at the end of the year, they'd host a fire and just like burn everything. They'd read them all out and throw them in the fire and like burn it and be like, this is not the energy you need. And we loved that because it was one of those things where you could take what was said to you, talk about it, and then let it go.
While we take a quick break, I wanted to introduce you to The Haven, my signature 12-week support program for mothers who are pregnant again after miscarriage, stillbirth, or infant loss. The Haven isn't just a course. It's a trauma-informed, community-centered program that includes weekly live workshops, expert guest speakers, and ongoing dual support from me, your dedicated pregnancy after loss doula, anytime you need it. You'll also receive guided journaling prompts, full access to my 13-module pregnancy after loss birth course, Reclaim, and a warm, intimate community of other PAL mothers, a place where you can be real, be held, and be reminded that you are not alone in this. Enrollment is now open at thedoulalife.ca/the podcast.com/haven with our next fall cohort reopening this September. You do not have to go through your pregnancy after loss alone. And inside the Haven, you won't. As a special offer to my podcast listeners, use code RAINBOW to get $100 off enrollment.
It was like a tangible way to like destroy it. I love that. Now, why don't you talk to us about, I know everyone kind of goes into this part differently. Some people, when they find out that, their baby has died, they have this innate longing to get pregnant right away. And some people feel like they, want to take some time to heal. What did that look like for you? And like, how did you know when you were ready to try to get pregnant again?
So B was actually a surprise for us. We had gotten married October and then gotten pregnant in November. It was like
Wow.
not planned at all. And so it was a huge surprise. And I don't know if we knew we were ready even at that point to have one. So losing her felt like it really hit because not that she wasn't planned, but it wasn't our original plan. And suddenly our plans shifted and we were so excited and so ready for it that when she passed, we took a lot of time just sitting with our grief and figuring out where we wanted to go next. And we had always talked about having 2 to 4 kids, somewhere in that mixture. And Matt, like my husband, kind of looked at me and he's like, when you're ready, I'm ready. So we had talked and we're like, you know what, let's just not even try. Let's just go with the flow. And if it happens, cool. If not, it's okay. So but that's just how we are. We knew that we were ready to be parents in the sense that we were so excited and we were ready for it. We were ready to have a kid. We were talking about what we were going to do with her and the things we'd introduce. And we're a mining community. My husband works in the mines all the time, and he was talking about how every summer his office holds this big family day where all the family members come out and they show a bunch of equipment that he works on. And so he's like super excited to show her that because it was coming up that month. And so like little things that we had talked about. And then we knew that we wanted another from the get-go. I think it was just like we love her, and she's still a part of us, and when the time's right, it'll show itself for us.
I love that. So what did it look like when you guys found out you were pregnant?
I think it was like fear mixed with excitement because there's that fear of like, oh, is this going to happen to us again? So we waited till like more than halfway through the pregnancy before we really told anyone. I think we were almost in the 3rd trimester by the time we had socially announced it. Our families figured it out earlier. There's just signs that your family knows. And so they had kind of figured it out earlier, but we didn't go all out and like we did the first time of like a big announcement and a reveal. And like even with the gender, well, to begin with, they had a hard time getting the gender because he kept his legs closed constantly. So every time he would move, they couldn't get it. So there was a lot of like, I think we got it, but it might not be this. So we had done like a little thing between us, but they're like, don't count it as 100%. So it was kind of funny for that aspect of we spent the whole pregnancy going, we're pretty sure it's a boy, but like they told us not to count it 100% because they're having a hard time.
Yeah.
So it was really funny. We laughed about that a lot. But there's that fear, right? Because you hear about miscarriage. So the first little bit, we're like, okay, we're just going to hold it because my best friend, we had lost in August. In December, my best friend had a miscarriage. So it's just like, we're just going to wait. And then we're like, okay, you know what? We're happy in this moment. We're going to announce it now because we lost at 40 weeks in 4 days. So it is what it is. You can lose at any point. Let's just do it because we're happy and we're excited and he deserves to be celebrated just as much as she was.
Yeah, it's just something you can never unlearn, right? Is that something can go wrong even in the final hours, unfortunately.
And there's something about unannouncing a pregnancy that is so heart-wrenching. Like it's like you announce it, you're so excited, and then you have to figure out the words to tell everyone that they're not here anymore. And how do you do that?
Mhm. It's very like exposing. And then it also opens you up to other people, right? And then affecting the peace or making things worse or harder. And it's very complicated.
My husband, so the day, because she passed away on a Saturday technically. So we had to wait until the Monday for her to be picked up by the funeral home. So then we went in the afternoon to get everything sorted. And my husband gets a call. So know those like world's luckiest babies you could sign up for. He didn't even remember. I guess he had signed up for her for different things like diapers and stuff like that. And she ended up winning
Wow.
one of them. So we're walking out of the funeral home into our truck and we just sit down to like go over what we just went through. And my husband gets a phone call and we're like, okay. So he answers it and he just starts bawling because he's being told that she won this. And I'm like, what are the odds? Like, what are the freaking odds that this happens today?
Yeah. Those things like that, like you just can't prepare yourself for it at all. I'm sorry that happened. It is like, I know what you mean. Like, you kind of almost have to go back and like laugh at it because it seems so insane that you're like, how is this my life right now? Like, it's kind of nuts.
Yeah, it's like, how is this our reality that we just went to the funeral home and like we're a smaller community, so everyone kind of knows each other. So one of the funeral directors, I've known her since elementary school. She was my brother's friend all throughout elementary and high school. And so she was supposed to be our funeral director. And when she learned that it was our daughter, she's like, I can't. She's like, I can't touch this one because she's like, it hits way too close to home.
Yay.
So we ended up switching to a different funeral director, and then she took care of B the whole time she was there. So she dressed her, got her ready, like so we could go see her and all that fun stuff. And then our friend ended up being the one that cremated her. And it was just this like, how?
Mhm.
And there's the why of it. Like you sit there going like why? And it's not like why us because it could happen to anyone, but it's like why her? Like why couldn't she stay?
Of course. And you're her mother. You're supposed to ask that question, right? Like, your baby deserves to stay.
Yeah, like why didn't she get a life?
You know, fit back big time. So with your son, sorry, I didn't actually catch his name.
It's Archer.
Archer. With your son, Archer. Tell me some of the things that, were supportive in your pregnancy after loss with him. Obviously, even just from you talking about it for a few minutes, it was a different experience for you than it was with Braelynn because, you did have to feel like you needed to keep it private. It was not as much of a surprise. So talk to me a little bit about, yeah, some of the things that, kind of got you to that finish line with him.
So we actually ended up hiring a doula.
Amazing.
Um, my cousin had kind of recommended, well, a different cousin, it was my husband's cousin. Originally, she had had a doula for her second pregnancy because her first was very traumatic. And she had told us about, actually, that's how I found you. She had told us about you, and then I wanted someone more local. So we looked around and we found an amazing doula here. And she kind of went through it with us the whole process and was there for like mental support. So when I had my days, it was like I would text her and just be like, I don't know if I'm okay today. And she'd be like, hey, let's talk about it. Let's go through it. And our OB, so originally when we found out we were pregnant, our OB had asked my doctor, because I asked for that specific OB again, and she asked my doctor to just do a quick mental health assessment and make sure that I could go back to her, that it wasn't going to be too hard going into the same place that I had frequented with her. And so she did like a quick assessment, and then I went back to her because I didn't trust the medical field again.
Mhm.
I didn't trust that I was going to be listened to. I didn't trust that things were going to go okay. So I'm like, I trust her.
Which is it really is the most important thing. And not only that, but this obstetrician saw you through the most transformative moment of your life. She knows your history. Like that is incomparable, right?
And there's two OBs that I was willing to go to, and that was it. And I wasn't budging on that because I'm like, I don't feel comfortable with any of the other ones. Like, I don't know if I'd mentioned it, but when I had B, the OB didn't even say that she had passed. She just looked at me, and I had to say it out loud that there was nothing. And I think that was heartbreaking because I'm the one who said it to my husband.
Mm.
It wasn't our doctor who said, like, I'm sorry, she's passed. She just looked at me, and then I said it, and she's like, well, I'm sorry. So it's like I was very specific on I don't trust in this right now. So we went back to her, and like she has been amazing. Anytime I had concerns, she's like, just come in. She's like, come in here or go to or like, I'll set you up with the hospital. So they knew who I was. Minimal people had access to my care. So we dealt with the charge nurse when we went in for NSTs, because we did NSTs at the end of the pregnancy. We did extra um, ultrasounds. They don't normally check for nuchal cord, but with this one, they checked for nuchal cord to make sure that there wasn't one. Because if there was one, she was like, we have to figure out what you're comfortable with. Are you comfortable staying on um, in bed and just having monitors on you constantly to make sure that there's no issues, or do you prefer a C-section and going from there? And he didn't have a nuchal cord, thank God, because I think that would have stressed me 10 times more.
Of course.
But I think just that extra level of care, that knowing, okay, the OB's behind me, I don't have as many hands around me when I go into hospital. It's not like I'm dealing with 10,000 people. And then we set a date, we chose the date, and we were induced. It definitely helped. And like I was in early labor going into the induction, which was kind of funny because I was
Yeah,
having mild
that's very beneficial too.
yeah, so I was having mild contractions and everything. And then he decided to pick his own date because we went in October 31st. Um, and then he missed it by 21 minutes, which my husband was like, no. He's like, I wanted a spooky baby. Um, but just having that extra level and then having the doula behind us, and then the grief counselor was still involved every once in a while when needed. So there's just like extra layers to it. And I think that really helped. And then when we went into hospital, we really had contact with one nurse during the first part of our labor, and then they did their shift change, and then we had only one nurse again. So it wasn't like 10,000 nurses coming in and out and changing, and so it was a little bit easier for us in that aspect.
Especially with I feel like one thing that people don't understand the benefit of a doula, and like even for me, like I had a doula for my Earthside baby, is that in those moments of panic and fear, yeah, there are a lot of tools that you can do yourself that you can help bring yourself through. But there's something incredible and priceless about being able to pick up your phone and text someone and say, hey, like, I'm struggling. And you know it's their job to get you through that. Because like therapy is beautiful and amazing, and we all love our therapists and need our therapists, but our therapists are never going to do that. So having someone that, you know, sees you, cares about you, and it's their job to support you, I think is just absolutely priceless.
I still talk to her almost on a daily. Like we'll send, well, at least monthly. I'll send her pictures of Archer, and like we'll chat. She hosts things around here for moms. Currently have not gone to one just because I have other stuff going on. But this summer, me and my friend have signed up for a few of her like mom and me walk classes and stuff like that. So we're excited to do those things. But it was that hands-on moment where like we know midwives won't touch us because we're now considered high risk, even though technically I was not considered high risk because of what happened. It was just because she had passed that they consider it high risk. So having that hands on where if I had any questions or if I was worried about anything, she kind of would guide me to like, okay, these are the things we can do. This is what we can help with, and this is how we can go about it. And like that really helped. And 10 out of 10, I'll do a doula. I'll have a doula any other pregnancies because there's just nothing compared to that feeling.
I love that. Now, how did Archer's actual birth go? It sounds like you were surrounded by a lot of people that cared about you, that loved you. It was a different experience because you knew everyone that was there. Um, how did that moment feel for you?
It felt a lot more empowering. Like, so I had also done a maternity shoot with a photographer that's very empowering, I found. So she got a really cool picture, and it was like we had thrown up these like sand chalks almost, and it was the color of the rainbow.
Mm.
And the blue color actually landed on me, and I was just covered head to toe in blue. And it was such a funny moment because we're just like, oh my God, like we're having a boy. And what are the odds that of all the colors to fall on me, the blue is what covers me from the whole rainbow. So I have a really cool picture where like I wanted to depict that we were having a rainbow baby, but there's some days where I'm just like, I hate the term rainbow baby.
Totally.
But I wanted that like, okay, one picture where it's like, this is the depiction that this baby is our rainbow. He is, there's a storm, there's not a storm going on because our baby's not a storm, but our emotions are a storm because we're so up and down and we're everywhere. And he's healing parts of us that should never have had to be healed. She had like done that like color thing. So I was empowered from that. And then going into the hospital, knowing that my OB was going to be the one delivering and that I was going to be surrounded by people who were there to help us and that the doula was always present and was coming in and out and was one phone call away if I did, because the first little bit was kind of long because they have to get everything started. So we're like, we'll call you when we need you because we're just going to watch movies and you don't need to sit here and it's Halloween and I'm sure you want to see your kids go out for Halloween. So we called her in when we needed her and all that fun stuff. But knowing that, it just felt so much more empowering because it felt like we had a little bit of control. When all control was taken away from us the first time, this time it felt like there was some semblance of we could control how it went, even though we can't control the outcome.
Mhm. And it just probably felt safer, right? And I think like I know that when you create that element of safety in your birth, it's going to support everything. It's going to support your physiology. It's going to support your baby. It's going to support how smooth your birth is going to go, and how you view your birth experience. And it sounds like you did a really amazing job at creating safety on the day you welcomed your son.
It really felt safer. It was one of those things where losing her made the whole pregnancy feel so unsafe and uncertain. And I was like, oh, every appointment you're going in, and you're like, am I being told that there's no heartbeat today? And I remember our first ultrasound, I lost it. I started crying and I had this amazing ultrasound tech and I ended up having her later on as well. And she just looked at me, she's like, take a breath. She's like, I can't tell you much, but I'm gonna say there's a heartbeat. Because she saw from our chart what it said and I had kind of talked to her about how I was nervous about this and she actually let my husband come in, which normally they don't let the spouses come in for like those first few ultrasounds and or normally they'll go get them at the end of the ultrasound. Well, she let him come in from the start. So it was like I had him and I was crying and he's rubbing my leg and she's like, okay, I'm just gonna say there's a heartbeat. She's like, I can't say much else, but there's a heartbeat. So that felt good.
It's just like an extra level of humanity, right?
Yeah.
Like this isn't just a procedure, this is my life. And them meeting you on a human level can make such an incredible difference of how you feel about it, right?
And this is something that's so not talked about in the hospital setting or like when you're pregnant at all. They don't talk about this. So going through it and then it becomes something a subject that's now approachable and that's I find that a little annoying because it is something that should be approachable at all aspects. Like, no, I don't want you to go, oh, you could lose this baby to every pregnant mom. But when you go through surgery, they talk about all the risks. Why don't they do it now?
Mm-hmm. That's such a good point, and that's why doulas are really important because I feel like in a lot of like, especially with birth, especially with pregnancy, you're not really getting complete and full informed consent. They're kind of just painting a piece of the picture. Whereas, if you're going to make an educated decision on your baby and your birth and your body and all these things, like how is it fair to make a decision when you only have part of the picture painted for you?
Yeah, it was one of those things, right? Where like I took nursing, so it was something I knew. And when my cousin had lost her baby, my husband and me, it became a topic of conversation in our house while we were pregnant about like how often does this occur and what are the studies. So I would literally, I'm crazy. I printed out studies on it, and I'm like, honestly, the women reproductive system is not something that's very openly studied or studied often, or if it's studied for that reason, it's studied for other reasons. And so the research on it is very uncertain,
Mhm.
even. So he would just ask a lot of questions about it, like, oh, like, what are the possibilities? And then, so then when we went through it, he was like, did I jinx us? And I'm like, no, like, these things just happen. And about her first birthday was August 12th of last year. And August 8th, or a few days prior, my husband found out that a guy he worked with, that he was close to, that my dad was close to, their baby had died from the exact same thing, but it was earlier in their pregnancy and there's nothing they could have done. And it was just like, okay, so them saying that nuchal cords are very rare isn't true to begin with, but then also saying that nuchal cords don't kill, like, clearly that's not right, because I know two babies who died from it. And it wasn't a true knot. It wasn't the other complications that normally do that. It was literally a nuchal cord that just wrapped so tightly that when that baby had flipped, it had tightened, and then when our daughter was trying to send, it tightened. So why isn't there more research going into this, or why didn't they tell us? Because I went back to my first ultrasound with B, and it had a nuchal cord written in the report.
Mhm.
So they knew from the get-go that there was a nuchal cord, and we didn't know if at one point it had resolved, because after the anatomy scan, we never got another ultrasound.
Yeah, I think the questions are just always going to be, it's just never really going to make sense. But I totally understand the anger that comes from it, where, moms aren't given the full picture, right? Um, and you pose a really good question, like why is that? And I find like a lot of the time it's, to make our care provider's job maybe a little bit easier. Um, they don't have to deal with an anxious mom that they don't, they're overworked. It's a quicker appointment, not going over things like that. But um, yeah, I'm really sorry that that wasn't flagged for you and wasn't taken more seriously. Um, Now, if you could go back to the moment that you first found out you were pregnant after loss, and you could tell yourself one thing, what would you tell yourself?
I don't think I tell myself anything. There's some things you just have to be able to go through, and they make you who you are. And I don't really have advice for myself, because everything I did in that time, I did because I needed to do. And they helped me survive. And I don't think, like, I'm sure there's stuff if I look back that I could change, but at the same time, I wouldn't, because it led me to the spot that I am in today. So I don't really think I could tell myself anything, because I heard it all. I heard the, oh, you're so strong, and oh, you're doing amazing, and this is all going to be worth it. But I did everything to survive, and I don't think I could change that. And I don't think I'd have something that would get me through it the way I got through it.
It kind of happened the way that it was supposed to.
Yeah, like I don't think there's anything I could say that would change how I felt at any point in that time.
Mhm. Now, how does honoring Braelynn show up in your life and your family's life now?
So, like I said, we have she has a little monument that was made for her. It's at the cemetery. We didn't want to put her alone, so my grandfather had passed away years ago from cancer, and they had this beautiful bench made, and she's tucked under the bench. So you can sit on the bench and chat with her, is kind of jokingly what we say. When we did our gender reveal between me and my husband, we actually did it there with her. But in our everyday lives, like, I feel like she's someone we talk about. It's like we talk about our parents, we talk about Archer, we talk about our dog, Radar, we talk about each other. She slips right into that conversation piece. And like we get asked, "Oh, how many kids do you have?" And I'll always say two. That'll always be my response. Until we have more, then it'll be whatever number we're at then. But right now, it'll always be two. I have two kids, whether you see them both or not. And normally the conversation ender is, "Oh, where's your other one? Oh, she died." And everyone just kind of looks at you and goes, "Oh, I'm sorry," and just kind of walks off. And it's like, well, you kind of set yourself up for that one.
Mhm.
But we have in our house, she has two areas. So in our living room, our main living room, we have a nice wall with two beautiful windows. And we had my cousin, she owns a framing and like creative store, so it has like painting, all that fun stuff. So we had her do a frame with her molds for her hand and her foot, her blanket that she got at the hospital, her hospital tag and my hospital tag, her the announcement card that you get at the hospital with their name and like the parents' names and all that information on it. We have that in there. And we have a picture of her, and it's just hung very nicely. And then for her first birthday, my brother and my parents had gotten her, you can buy a constellation and name it after someone. So they had gotten her that. So we have that certificate there. And then in our nursery, we have like 3 cubbies. And in the middle cubby, we have a picture of her in a really nice frame with the book we used to announce to our family that we were pregnant once we were ready to. Well, and it says, "I'm a big sister." And we have a bear that was given to us by a family member that has her name, her date of birth, her weight, her size, and like all her information. Then, God, I think it was like probably 2 months after she had passed. I'm very much someone I got addicted to tattoos. I'm not even gonna lie. So my husband got his first tattoo, and I got my 4th or 5th tattoo. We each got one of her foot. So I think I have the left foot on my arm. And then I did the colors for infant loss, so the blue and the pink as a halo. And then it just says planted on earth, blooming in heaven. And my husband got her right foot, so she is firmly planted on earth, is how we say it. She's firmly planted with us. We actually have some of her ashes mixed into the ink. And my husband has angel wings that are colored in the infant loss colors with it, and his says, "It's just a bad day, not a bad life."
I love that.
I feel like we kind of we kind of try and throw her in, like even Mother's Day. My husband had gotten us tickets to go to a concert this summer, and part of it was that it's from B and Archer, and like she's just always there. I signed every card with her name in it, the same way I do with our dog's name. Like it's just always present.
I love that. I think this is a good place to close up today. And I just want to, thank you so much for sharing Braelynn and Archer's beautiful stories, for sharing a piece of your heart, for letting us see you. I know that there's so much power in sharing our stories, and someone is going to listen to your story and feel seen and feel validated and take something majorly away from hearing from you today. So I just want to thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Kristen. It was really nice to be able to talk about her in an environment that felt healing more so than what is someone going to say to me.
I'm so glad.
Jasmine, thank you so much for sharing your story, your heart, and your precious babies with us. Your bravery in speaking the truth about what happened and in honoring Braelynn so openly is a really powerful reminder of why these conversations matter. I know there are mothers listening who are going to feel less alone because of your voice today. If Jasmine's story touched you, I would be so grateful for you to share this episode with someone who might need it. Until next time, take care of your heart. Your baby is never forgotten, and neither are you. If you enjoyed today's episode and you are looking to feel a little less alone in life after loss, don't forget to hit subscribe so you can continue hearing real, honest stories from mothers who've walked this path too, and to stay up to date with all future episodes of The Rainbow Connection. If you're looking to connect more, Instagram is where I hang out most, so come and join me in a beautiful community of lost moms for PAL-specific birth education, real-life grief talk, and deep solidarity. You can find me at the.doula.life. And don't forget to check out today's show notes for any resources mentioned in this episode, or head to thedoulalife.ca/podcast for more. And remember, you are never alone. I'll see you in the next episode.